On the microphones, pure and uncensored American straight talk. Never quit. You're locked and loaded with Chris Peranto and Ian Scotto. This is the Battleline Podcast.
I have no idea how it works.
Can you hear me?
Gotcha, lumpy chicken. How you doing?
I'm good. Juice chumpy. You caught me off guard. I don't know smart ass comeback, damn it. Fuck. I fucked up. Let's try that again. Hang up on me and call me.
Okay, Johnny, hang up and get him back.
Kid, stay there. You don't have chickens if we do that. Let's just go with it.
If we're recording, should we actually start the podcast with that?
Fuck yeah, dude. Just fucking warts and all, man. You got me on here. It's going to get fucking weird fast.
Yeah, we're recording, so we're coming in hot.
And Chris, I got to apologize ahead of time.
What?
Ian was telling me that you got a fundamental Christian audience, and I'm going to talk about doing coke and banging hookers.
Oh no! Are you kidding me? The ones that follow me, no, I'm not dude. It's like my 8th guardian angel, dude. They all fucking quit on me. Every one of them goes to God and be like, dude, how did you give me this piece of shit? I can't handle him. I need somebody else.
Dude, what are you talking about? God likes the most fucked up people the most. Everybody else is boring.
Oh, that's what makes life just worth living, brother. It's a roller coaster, bro. Are you kidding me? What people? I piss off people left and right, and that's just how it is. So it's no big deal, man.
I don't even try to. I'm just fucking real, and they don't like it, and I don't care.
Well, that's when, you know what? You don't get any more real than going on Fox News in the morning and telling the world you're going to choke out the former President Obama because he's calling Benghazi a conspiracy. I don't know how much more real than that you can get. And then people get on your ass for, well, yeah, why did you say that? Well, he was lying. What do we want me to do? You asked me the question, Pete.
So with that, I'm going to at least introduce our guest who's in front of me.
We haven't introduced him yet.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
they don't know who he is yet.
I'm being a total.
No, it's all good. So Steve Ralston.
This is the cool shit anyway, Chris. Don't fucking worry about it.
Steve Ralston, military career from 1990 to 1998. Served in SEAL Team 3 from 1990.
88 to 98, but close.
I looked at your own LinkedIn, I think.
Well, that's where you made a mistake.
Well, they have the social media. Do we need
I was in from
more?
88 to 98.
88 to 98
right.
Then. SEAL Team 3 from 94 to 98.
Right.
And
SPV 90 to 94.
And with that, I should say, unlike our last guest, General Tata, I'm going to suspect that Chris is not going to refer to you as a cake eater.
Probably not. Similar.
But your situation starts as a toddler.
Right.
It's a crazy story that I think this audience would really benefit from.
What he's talking about, Chris, is I was and this is all shit I found out later in life. I found out I'm 49 now, so I found out when I was 45 that I'm actually a product of a fucking rape.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, so
okay.
I found that out four-ish, maybe 5 years ago now. I'm not 100% certain on the date. So what happened was, in my mother, obviously, so you get assaulted, you deal with that trauma and that horror every time you see this little primate that you've given birth to, right?
Man, your mom's tough.
Well,
wow,
she's
a tough lady. God dang.
So she farmed me out wherever she could. And one period of my life, I was living with my uncles who were, let's just call them motorcycle enthusiasts and entrepreneurs. Well, they were drug dealers and gun runners, right? So one day, my cousin and I are cruising around inside the house playing cowboys and Indians, and I pick up a rifle and I point it at him and I squeeze the trigger, and a 22 short rounds hits him in the head. It doesn't kill him right away. It bounces around inside of his skull and turns off most everything.
Mm-hmm.
So my uncle comes in and he goes, "Why the fuck did you have to shoot him in the head?" And then grabs him and we throw him in the back of his Cadillac and we drive to the hospital and all that stuff. But see, that lesson, to have that lesson when you're 9 years old, that's a
Wow.
pretty solemn deal.
That brother,
Getting that lesson when you're 20 something is
I don't
different.
know what to say, man.
No,
I really don't. I'm speechless. Wow.
No, it is what it is, man. But to have that lesson when you're in your 20s, when somebody's shooting at you, and then you got to turn them off like that, that's a different deal. Or sometimes you don't even see the person; you just see the rifle going off, or you just see the muzzle flash or whatever.
Yep.
But to have that lesson at 9 years old, that puts a few things in your mind,
What? Tell me. I want to know. I know people want to know out there. I want to know what does it put? Because you're close proximity, or at that age. Do you even remember it, dude? I mean, or is it kind of just a blur? Or do you really or just the feeling? Just remember the feelings.
You know exactly. You remember the first one. I remember every single fucking nanosecond of it, like it just happened before I walked in this room. And I've been lucky or unlucky, I don't know what you call it, but I've participated in some violence in the course of my existence. But that's the only piece that I remember incredibly vividly. I remember what was going on in the room, what the room smelled like, what the floor looked like, all that stuff. Everything else is kind of a blur, just kind of activity, like you remember expressions and shit like that. But that's the only thing that I remember every single nanosecond of.
Yeah, and that's I always get worried when I ask somebody a question like, and they say, "Well, it was kind of all blur. I don't remember it."
That's not true.
Did you really do it? You do remember. That's
the first one. You remember every single second of it. Every second. And if you say you don't, you're lying.
You're lying. Yeah, dude, smells. That's why it's so hard to come back and just be civilian.
Well, that's the worst because the smells. You don't know when you're going to smell something that's going to send you fucking back there, and then you start sweating and shit. You're like, what the fuck?
You know what, brother? Is that, and I look at it as a positive. You got to experience, as atrocious as some people may think it is. You got to experience that. I enjoy. I get to experience it, man. Who gets to experience things like that? Whether it's awful or good or bad. The experience is what we live for. If you want to live bland and live vanilla for your whole life, live vanilla for your whole life.
I have zero interest in that. One thing you said, I heard you speak one time at the New York Athletic Club, and you talked about when you're under fire and everything's going on. You don't get it. Your senses are so heightened that the volume is turned up on everything. The colors are louder. The smells are more brilliant. The tastes are more brilliant. Everything is louder.
That experience from you as a kid, I think for a lot of people could have broke them. I just want to know what drove you to join the SEALs from that all those years later?
Well, what happened was because I was in that environment. Well, and if you can imagine, it instills such a phenomenal sense of self-loathing. I absolutely despised who I was as a human. So I started selling marijuana at 10. I started selling cocaine and pills at 12. So I, of course, had that entrepreneurial zeal going on. So I did that till I was my senior year in high school. I was 17 years old. I was doing all the stuff that bad kids do. And then some people that I was running around with got hurt, and some people went away and that kind of shit. So what I did was I found the hardest special forces that the American military had to offer.
Okay, well, there you're going. Okay, we talking about everything. You just crossed the line. We're fighting now.
Okay, that's all right. Talking purely about attrition rates now, Chris. Purely about attrition rates. That's all right. No, we're good. So I went to the MEP station, took all the tests, but I took my ASFAB. Pardon me. I had taken my ASFAB in school, but I was still doing drugs and still a dickhead, right? So I just made like a bunch of designs and shit. And then the recruiter was like, "You're gonna have to retake your ASFAB." So I went down and I retook my ASFAB, and I scored so high on it they thought that I cheated. So I had to come back the next day and retake it again. I got even a higher score the next day. So after doing that, they were like, "Okay, we want you to take these other tests. They want me to go into nuclear submarines and shit for the Navy." And then so they brought out, I was like, "Look, I don't want to do that. I'm signing up specifically to be a SEAL. I'm signing up on a dive fair program. That's what I'm interested in." We're like, "Okay, we hear you, but just try this." So they brought out these other tests, and they brought out the mathematic tools like the slide rule and this other horse shit. I'm like, "Why are you bringing me this shit? I have no idea what this stuff even is." And then they brought out the calipers. I'm like, is there like a fly in this fucking room or something? What, we're going to do some Karate Kid stuff? What am I going to do with this deal? So I told him, I was like, look, I have zero training as far as this material is concerned, so I'm just going to fail it. So anyway, I failed it miserably. And then I went to the Navy. I went to Buds. Oh, that's pretty boring. And
it's just good stuff. Just good training.
No, it was good training. I went there in 1989.
Damn, I was in junior high, dickhead. I was in junior high, dickhead. That's right. A movie quote, everybody.
Oh, yeah? Which one? Which movie?
Die Hard. Come on, man. Come on. Die Hard. We're at Christmas time. It's Die Hard. It's holiday season.
It's not Christmas time until Hans Gruber falls off Nakatomi Plaza.
I was a junior high, dickhead. That's just like back in Nam. I was a junior
that's
high,
right.
Dickhead.
I remember.
Okay.
Did you serve in 3 with any guys that we would know, like from the community, or relatively low-key guys?
Relatively guys that are still busy. As older guys, but working for different companies.
You left before Doherty got over there, right?
I left there in '98. I left there in August of '98. And I think I did. I knew Glenn through Brandon.
Yeah.
And then there's another guy named Clint Emerson. I knew
Clint's a great guy.
He is a really great guy.
Good dude.
Super good dude. Can't say enough good things about him. And then I got out in '98. And then the whole time I was in the teams, I drank and I used drugs the entire time. And everybody knew it. They just kind of looked the other way. They pretended it wasn't going on because it was just a different community back then. When it was time to go do whatever we needed to do, I could perform. Yeah. So they were just, Ralston's going to go out and get drunk. He's going to get in a fight, going to wreck a car. So we just cover it up. Just keep doing what you're doing. So I got out in '98, started a commercial real estate company, and I was married to a woman, a horrible woman, turned to find out later, but she was incredibly well connected. She had the best family you can imagine, just the best people. So for whatever reason, I got married. It was a terrible decision. I have 3 great daughters, but got married for all the wrong reasons. And then I started generating a bunch of wealth, buying a bunch of buildings for super wealthy people and managing those buildings correctly. And I started getting all that stuff that you're supposed to have to make you happy. I had the money, I had the houses, I had the cars, I had all that shit, but I was still consumed with self-centered fear and insecurity because I had that piece of self-pity. If only you knew this. If only you knew that I had accidentally killed my cousin, then there's no way that you could like me or love me or whatever the fuck I thought you should be thinking about.
You're still feeling sorry for yourself after all that. You're trying to overcompensate with. Yeah, I get you, man.
Well, because I'm a little dude. I'm like 5'8". I'm probably 180 pounds now, but back then, 5'8", 160, soaking wet. And you know how it is. You volunteer for every single thing, hoping that you're going to get killed or whatever the hell, and it doesn't happen, and you're even angrier.
Because I get you, Ben. You buy into that, and I do believe in heaven. I do, but right. I don't like that Valhalla. Hey, we're all going to meet in Valhalla type shit sayings. I don't like that anymore. And I used to buy into that shit. I really did. But no, I got you, brother. I got you. I'm the same as you. I'm 5'9", 160 pounds. I've always been that, except after Ranger School, I was 130.
Well, of course. So you're on the Army 72-day hunger strike, man. I get it.
It is. Yeah, it's terrible. But keep going. Keep going, man. Because I'm digging it. Keep going.
So anyway, we went to. But in the military, I obviously had a drug and alcohol problem. But when I got out of the military, because you have all that stuff, I developed a serious drug and alcohol problem. At the very end, I was doing anywhere between 3 and 6 grams of cocaine every day, drinking a liter of vodka, and taking anywhere between 6 and 12 Vicodin. And I was chewing them up just so I could continue to bounce off the guardrails, because I had this completely consumed with self-centered fear. And then we were attacked. And then when we got attacked, because I'd only been out for 3 years, I got some telephone calls because I was an Arab speaker. I had done a couple things, been a few places.
I actually wasn't even aware of that, by the way, that you spoke Arab.
Yeah. They actually sent me to the Berlitz language course for 6 months. I went there to a nondescript building in San Diego and Spent 10 hours a day for 6 months learning Arabic. So they of course called me, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And I was completely addicted to drugs and alcohol. I was probably 190 pounds, all puffed up and just completely fucked up. So then I spiraled out of control, and then I woke up after a 5-day blackout in East Vegas, in a Howard Johnson's in East Vegas. And I had too much cocaine, too much money. I had an extra pistol. I had a bunch of pot and a bunch of pills, and I had like a bunch of 6 out of from 1 to 10. I had bought a bunch of 5 and 6 prostitutes in the room, like 4 or 5 of them. It's like like a suite. Dude. So I paid everybody off, and I still remember the sound that lump of cocaine made, that kaplunk that it made when it went in the toilet. So I paid everybody off, kicked them out of the room, and then I called my wife at the time. I said, hey, I know you probably don't care, but I'm alive. And I'm in Vegas. So my former brother-in-law was my doctor. So I got a hold of him and I told him, I said, hey, man, I am completely addicted to cocaine and alcohol. So I came back. I signed the found persons report, which is embarrassing as shit, especially when you know all the cops in Coronado. I mean, this is one of the fucking admirals was at my wedding and shit. I was as connected as you can be, especially in a little town like Coronado. So I did that stuff, went to the hospital, and I was in a hospital for like 5 days. And then when I was in the hospital, the second day, my doctor said, hey, there's somebody I want you to meet. And, I was still strapped to the bed because I was whacked out and I didn't know what was going to go down.
Oh, yeah.
So they said, I want to introduce you to the toxicologist. I'm like, okay. So he brings him in and he goes, I just wanted to meet you. I'm like, yeah, well, why the fuck's that? And he said, well, because you had twice the lethal limit of cocaine and barbiturates in your system. And there's absolutely no way you should be alive. So I just wanted to meet you. I was like, okay. you want to take the straps off now?
He was like a zoo animal?
Yeah, exactly.
Like a freak of nature?
It's so crazy, by the way, that you could laugh about this now.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's just funny. It's just so insane that it's funny.
It's well, when you realize all that happened, man, and done, and you moved on, what happened? Because you're here, you're still doing great things.
Well, what happened?
And what I like people to know is on this is, especially guys like yourself or guys like myself that go through issues. You went through a hell of a lot, brother, hell of a lot outside the military than I ever did. I had a very good upbringing, which was my base. But how did you overcome, man? I mean, that's what happened. These guys need to know. How do you get through that then?
Well, it was funny because they still kept me strapped down. I was in 5-point restraints. So, my ankles, my knees, my hips, my elbows, wrists, and neck. And then they kept me strapped down for 2 days just for obvious reasons. And then I went away. They sent me away to a rehab. And when I was in rehab, they had this giant nurse with me. Just a big, like a 6'4", 280-pound black dude.
She was Nurse Ratchet on steroids, basically.
No, this cat would have fucked me up. His name was his name was Lewis, and they actually had him stay with me for the first. They put me in a facility. I was in there for 45 days. I actually signed up for it and all that stuff because I knew I had a drug problem. I knew that I was horribly addicted to cocaine and pills and everything else. So I went in there. Lewis stayed with me for 2 weeks. And then when he got out and I started itching for cocaine again. So in my infinite wisdom, I had hired 2 cocaine dealers that worked for me in my real estate company. So I called them up and I had them bring coke to me.
Yeah, and you threatened one of them,
I
right?
did. And these guys are Mexican mob guys.
Yeah.
And they knew who I was and all that other kind of stuff.
Didn't you basically say, when I get out of here, I'll kill you?
I told him, his name's Freddie. I'm not going to say his last name, but hopefully he's still alive. I called him up and I said, Freddie, I need you to bring me an Oscar, which is slang for an ounce, 28 grams of cocaine. And he's like, boss, you're in the hospital. And I said, I know where the fuck I'm at, Freddie. I need you to bring me some yo. And he's like, no, man, I can't. You're in the hospital. And I said, Freddie, you know me. I'll come to your house and I'll fucking kill you and I'll burn your house down. And he's like, all right, man, I'll be there in 30 minutes. So Freddie brought me an ounce of cocaine when I was in rehab, and I was a little bit pissed about it because I can only do about 1 gram a day. And they would start seeing because I'd be all jacked up, right?
Yeah.
But I was paying for it. I was paying for the rehab, so they kind of pretended it didn't happen. But
why even go to the rehab at that point? I mean, it wasn't court mandated, right?
Oh, no, it wasn't court mandated, but I wanted to straighten myself up. But this was the best I could do. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was in rehab, and I was still doing drugs because I still had this self-centered fear. I still hadn't told anybody my secret, my horrible little secret. Steve got his fucking first confirmed kill at 9 years old, so therefore he should hate himself. That's what I was carrying around with me.
Yeah.
And then there's the drug dealer and violence and all the other shit that I participated in as a kid. And when I was a kid, it was like you didn't get yelled at. You got punched in the face. That's what happened. You fucked up. You got punched in the face.
I got some rocks to my. I wish I got punched. Why did somebody get rocks to my head? That's where I always got. Somebody threw a damn rock in my head. Not that I have rocks in my head anyway, but gosh dang, I'm just getting a rock on the side of the head all the time, and then that guy would run off.
Right.
Like, damn it, dude.
No, I was talking about at the dinner table and stuff. I was talking about. No, I wasn't. I was talking about with my interactions with adults.
You went through a lot, man.
It was a different deal. It was a different environment, that's for sure.
Different anybody. I was blessed. That's what saved me is I had a good living environment. But you know what is that you still were trying. Even people say, "Oh, he failed. He still failed when he was in rehab. He's still doing coke." I said, "No, well, he's the one that made the decision to go in there. He's the one that's trying to do it. He still."
But it wasn't until years later where you really did say, "I'm done."
It was like I went in October of 01, September. Yeah, October 01, because I melted down right about a month after because I got the telephone calls to go back, and I was absolutely fucking useless. There's nothing I could do.
Yeah.
And so I went to rehab, and then actually March of 2002 is when I got sober. So
sober.
It's not sober for real sober. Like,
how did you make that decision after going to a rehab where you have cocaine delivered to you to say, I'm really doing it this time?
I realized that I was completely and totally controlled by drugs and alcohol. I couldn't not drink. I couldn't not do drugs. And then I realized that this isn't going to work. So what happened is I started participating in a couple anonymous organizations, and I'm not going to say what their names are because this is kind
anonymous,
of the level.
Yeah.
It's a level plus press, radio, and film, and they ask you to keep that shit to yourself. So I did. I started doing the work in those programs, and little by little, step by step, I started getting better. And then I started contracting in 03. So I started taking a project here, started taking a project there, and the whole time I was going back and forth doing what I was doing, and I was staying sober, and doing whatever the hell was requested at the time, but still staying sober. Down in Central and South America, dealing with large quantities of cocaine and things of that nature, but still staying sober. So as I got out, and I did that up until 2010, and then I got divorced, and I left. This was all happening in San Diego. Then I left San Diego, then I moved to Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for a period of years, and then I moved out here to Manhattan, and now I live in Manhattan, and I'm still doing the same thing. I'll still take a couple, 2, 3, 5 contracts a year, depending on where and when and who's going to be available and what's happening. But I still do that. I still reach out to individuals. I still work with people, and I'm not saying I'm greater than or less than anyone. I'm just another hairless fucking talking monkey trying to do the deal, But the reality is I've been a couple places, done a couple things, and I've been beaten up enough to know what it takes to do certain stuff. I have skin in the game. And when I'm talking to people about not killing themselves, about not trying to start your pistol in the shower at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I've been there.
Yeah. That's the only way you can. And you found a way to do it. People may say that thing. What I see, that first step that you took going into the rehab, and even falling back on to cocaine a little bit. I still see that as that's the beginning of the success right there. because he decided to change. Yes, he failed, but now he looks back at it and like, holy crap.
But
I really do have a fucking problem because I was doing cocaine while I was in rehab. Holy shit, I really got to get myself. I'm going to have to knuckle down even more, and I'm going to have to knuckle down even more and even work harder to beat this. And you found a way, man. That's incredible to me.
The thing is, and I'm the last person to. The only thing I have to say about religion is if your religion tells you to kill somebody else, then you need to start with yourself. But as far as giving anybody a hard time about the religion, I'm the last person to do that. Yeah. It's just not. I'm just not that guy. But I can tell you, if it wasn't for my relationship with a God of my understanding, what God looks like to me, and whether that's just doing the next right thing or doing what you can to help other people or whatever that looks like to you. You know, we all get stuck that, especially in Western society, that success is supposed to look like this. A man's supposed to look like a Calvin Klein underwear model and that kind of bullshit. You know, or you're supposed to be like
Fight Club where they talk about that.
Yeah. Or you're supposed to be John Wayne, or you're not supposed to have any particular emotional response to anything, or unless we get convinced that we're not good enough. You know, our dick's not big enough. Our house isn't big enough. Our bank account's not big enough. Our car's not big enough. We get convinced of all this shit, and we don't realize that's all nonsense. That's all bullshit so they can fuel an economic engine. Where the real juice is as humans is what can I do to help you?
Yeah.
It's always getting back.
What can I do to help you? And that's it.
And that's all it has to be. It doesn't matter whatever material stuff you had. And you basically said that the whole podcast. It really has. I hope people catch that. The material.
If they can get over the fucks and the nonsense, they will.
And you know what I should throw into that story, because you haven't mentioned it, but I mean it's a big part of that story.
What's that?
Is that you years later now have a great relationship with your children.
Well, when I first left my wife, and because I left her, and I'm not trying to overly inflate myself. The company had a pre-tax estimate north of $250 million. She had everything that you can possibly have to succeed, right? She had a giant family, all that stuff. So I left. I left my kids with her, which is a terrible mistake. I should have taken her to court and beat her up and got a bunch of money out of it and all that stuff. But I didn't do it.
And let's be clear, not beat her up physically.
Not physically. I'm talking about in court.
It's anybody so sad that we actually have to preclude that. In today's society, we actually have to say that. That's just ridiculous.
Well, see, but the situation is, the men that I hang out with, it would never even occur to me to hit a woman.
Of course, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. If say my girlfriend bangs my best friend, she might get an open hand slap, and then I'm going to leave. I'm going to beat him to death, but she might get an open hand slap, and then I'm going to leave, right? But he's getting fucking beat to death. But my point is, so now here we are 10, 11 years later from the divorce, and my daughters are telling me, how did you stay with that woman for that long? Because they can see how toxic she is, how sick she is, what's going on with her. But my whole point of that situation is I did what I thought was right at the time. And people classify right or wrong, and like we talked about earlier, if you don't have any skin in the game, then what are you even playing for?
Yeah.
You're not going to, unless it hurts, unless it really hurts, you're not going to learn. Like when you're making an investment in something, if you don't have any skin in the game, you're not really paying attention to what's going on.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. And relationship wise too.
Right.
I reconciled with my ex. Probably the best thing I ever did. I was in a very bad relationship for 3 years. That's what drove me to try. And luckily, I'm not very good at starting a Glock, but third time I tried it again third, but guys out there, I know it's this the Me Too movement, and I agree. You don't touch, you don't hit women, you don't know, you don't do it. But I've seen a lot of my buddies, and when I say a lot's being more than one. To me, that is a lot, more than one of my buddies commit suicide because of a bad relationship. So I hate to say that it's only women that get picked on, that are looked at, because man, I've seen guys go off the deep end because of a toxic relationship and kill themselves. So I think it's both sides. And just talking to you here, it sounds like you were in one, but you found a way to get out of it.
Well, I was thinking about killing myself just because of depression fueled by drugs and alcohol. And I want to talk about the Me Too movement, right? In the front of the Me Too movement, there's a hashtag, right?
Sure.
Don't.
Right. What was that? What was that hashtag referred to prior to
Who thought of that? I saw that too. Like
it was a
that's
pound
the pound,
sign,
that's
right?
the pound button.
Oh, yeah.
So pound Me Too.
I thought that.
I mean,
oh my
come
Lord,
on, seriously, that's the best we can do. That's our best and brightest right there.
Hey, whatever floats their boat. I don't know all the twatting stuff, the twatting and the hashtagging and the Twitter bugs, and but
that's because you've gotten kicked off Twitter how many times, Tonto?
I know I got kicked off, but
you realize this podcast would be so much bigger, but Chris
keeps getting kicked off Twitter.
He had this amazing Twitter following that we could have promoted this out to. And,
I might get it back if you let me. If you let me
just shut up. As soon as they find you have a podcast, they're gonna get back on. Don't worry about it, bro. You got a great story. You've been involved in a bunch of great stuff. You're moving a football down the field consistently every day. You're doing the thing the right way, and you're not sitting here trying to orally inflate yourself and talk about how big your dick is or any of that kind of bullshit. You're trying to do the right thing the right way. That happens.
That's just being real, brother.
Right.
Just like you.
That shit happens.
That's why I tell Ian, and that this special ops community, they do get that for the most part. These guys, good dudes do. I would say, Ian, it's a marathon, dude. It's a marathon. It'll work out. And and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But let's just have fun doing it. And if we have fun, then we're a win. It's a win. But it's a marathon, dude. It's a marathon. Let's just keep chugging along.
They built Rome brick by brick. All day, every day.
All day, every day. You got that right, brother. Bro, I had no idea. That's an amazing story.
It is. That's why I brought Steve here.
Wow. That's just because you were set up for failure, sounds to me from the womb, man. And you have succeeded. And you've gone through hell. That's why people should listen to you.
In terms of what you were saying, actually, with building the podcast, it's actually true with your podcast in terms of its grown listeners over the past, year and a half now?
Yeah, over the past year and a half.
I want to talk about, man. I want to talk about the bad monkey.
It's SOF,
bad monkey.
soft bad monkey. And, I wish we talk about shit that we're interested in. We're just being genuine. It's just guys. We've had Mike Day on, Jason Redman. We've had Annie Jacobson, Haley Lawrence, Wes Whitlock, Pat McNamara. We have a bunch of different people on, just a bunch of genuine individuals. And we don't do a whole bunch of editing. We don't ask people to fit a certain criteria, because my experience has been that the planet responds more to authenticity, to people being who they are. So I don't think anybody has to check a certain box for me to be happy, man. Everybody's on their own journey. It's just like, you be who you are, and I'm cool with that,
But that's the damn problem, is most people aren't anymore. They're always faking the funk, even just going to meeting them and to get coffee in the morning. They're not being themselves. How do I need to act? How do I need to hold myself?
Yeah, I'm the opposite of that, man. It's been my experience that fucking real recognizes real, and that's it. I think that's the only reason we've had any success. We've got about a year and a half. We got about 1.25 million listens and downloads, and we have people that follow us and people that show up to events that we're at, and people that I've had individuals say, "Hey, are you fucking Uncle Steve?" Because they recognize my voice at a machine gun shoot.
You got that Pennsylvania accent.
Yeah. Well, but the way I look at it is, if I'm candid, I'm dirty. I got warts. I got tattoos. I'm politically incorrect. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say something so somebody else feels less than, so I can feel greater than. I'm not in that deal. But if I can say one thing and somebody hears it and it resonates with someone, and they think, you know what, that guy got through it. Maybe I can get through it too.
It is.
I'm going to reach out to my buddy. I'm not going to park my car at the end of the street and blow my fucking head off. I'm going to reach out to Tano. I'm going to reach out to Steve. I'm going to reach out to Ian or whatever.
Yeah.
If I can say something and it resonates with one person, and maybe one person doesn't kill himself, or maybe one person reaches out to somebody else, or you help someone when you have the opportunity to, then that's enough.
Yeah.
And my add to that is to those that are thinking that, and this is how I fix myself. And I had a Ranger buddy do tough love. He basically just said, "Hey, dude, fix your effing self." He said that's what got to my head. It wasn't the, "Hey, are you going to be okay?" Hey, it wasn't, "Hey, everything's going to be all right. You're going to get through this." That didn't work with me. It was, "Ranger, fix your effing self." And that's when I'm like, holy shit. Okay, I am being a big pussy. I need to fix myself. And that's what did it for me. So what I tell guys out there, if you're thinking about it and you like if you're enjoying the condolences or the empathy, enjoy it a little bit. But when it comes right down to it, the only person that can get you out of that funk is you. Yeah. That's it. If you aren't willing to do it and find a way to do it, it doesn't matter how many people pat you on the back or say the nice things to you or give you the sympathy. It's not going to happen. You're going to just go down that road, and it's just going to turn into something even worse. You have to look in the mirror and say, "Is this who I want to be? Is this who I want to be when Jesus comes to see me?" Is that Joe Dirt? I think it was. But is this who I want to be for the rest of my life? And if you say no, then you got to find a way to fix yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah. I got a quick question for you, Chris. Did he tell you to fix yourself, or did he tell you to unfuck yourself? Seriously.
Actually, there's two ways. No, he actually did say, he goes, fix your fucking self. Okay. Because you need to fix your fucking self.
Well, because I use the other, and I'm not trying to be funny. That's like a real thing.
No,
especially with guys that have a fair amount of time downrange and doing that business. They won't waste words.
Yeah.
No, it was that, but I've heard that guys have told me to, "Hey, go," and that's usually on a mission where I have my gear all jacked up. "Hey, unfuck your gear, dude." Guys out there, if you want to use the unfuck analogy and not the fix your fucking self analogy, then that's fine too. They mean the same thing. And they both are comparable.
Very similar translation.
So thank you for adding that. I do appreciate that, Uncle Steve, because you're spot on too.
With that, you can follow Steve on Instagram, very active on Instagram at Ralston, STE, RALSTONSTE. And of course, Tonto's book, The Patriot's Creed, is out now. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. Helps us get visibility up. We've got some great guests on the horizon. Actually, before I got in studio, I was texting with Rob O'Neill. He's interested in coming on. So we'll definitely have some awesome guests as we move things along. And Steve, thanks for coming in, man.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it, bro.
Hey, bro. Nice to meet you too, brother.
And nice to meet you. I'm not joking. I will be reaching out to you about coming on.
If you don't mind, man, I'd love to.
I'd love to have you on, bro. It'd be a pleasure for us and an honor.
That's all for this week's Battleline Podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk, so make sure you're subscribed. And keep up with the show 24/7 on Facebook and Instagram at Battleline Podcast. Also on Twitter at Battleline Pod. As always, never quit.